Good evening to all. You are on the Soul Seek Journal, and it's beautiful outside. I'm not pointing the camera at my face because I don't think there's any point. I think it's uh, it's in the middle of the night. It's like 2:30 a.m. and yeah, it's gonna be one of the first videos for the Soul Seek Journal. So if you clicked on the video will be titled more or less a 40-year-old YouTuber ponders life's most deepest questions, or however I will end up wording it. But what is the Soul Seek Journal? So the Soul Seek Journal it's selfish in a lot of ways, meaning this is self digging and self exploration and self therapy for myself. But I also want this project, if you will, this channel, to be for all of us. First of all, I want this project, so to speak, to remind everyone that you have your own story to tell, that all of our stories has a place in the world of telling stories. I won't be editing these videos and doing all that crazy stuff. As far as YouTube goes, or any sort of social media nowadays, I think we're gaining back the value for these sort of videos. I don't want to just call it content. You can call it content, because obviously AI is taking over. It's everywhere, and I'm actually happy to see that we collectively were given pushback by making these sort of videos. I seen one guy called his channel like a 30-year-old YouTuber or something, and he basically just fills himself going to work and working at a fast food place and making content or whatever. And the channel blew up, and I'm happy for that kind of stuff, because again, I'm seeing that we are collectively given pushback against everything becoming artificial intelligence, to the point where we won't know what's real anymore. It's really hard to know what's real this day and age. We're not really, well, I guess the generation 30 and plus, we have still had an experience of playing outside and not being glued to TV screens or to computer screens. And I'm seeing kids nowadays. I have a niece, she's 18, and they're smart kids, but the thing is that I see that they're extremely jaded, and I'm realizing it's because their brain is constantly wired and bombarded with social media, and so they end up being glued to everything digital, to everything that's not real per se, because we're gonna explore what real means and what's good and bad and all of these things. That's why I started this channel. So and I think it's gonna be getting even harder for the generations to come to grasp on what reality is. I think the concept of reality itself is changing right before our eyes, and the question of what is real, and does it matter if I go out for a walk in the forest, or I put on these glasses at home, and it gives me a virtual experience of being out in the woods. And I'm pretty sure soon enough we're gonna get to a point where AI and simulation has become so advanced that you'll be able to have the smell and possibly the taste and so on and so forth. So not to stray off, that way, which I'm pretty sure we will explore more. I wanted to come back to what this this channel is, and again, it's self-exploration. It's the value of our human experience being documented, being passed down to generations, and for the coming generations to find some sort of value in it, and some sort of lessons, obviously, that we want to leave for them, while all of us out there, no matter your age, no matter what your background is, it's a way to really seek and to really try to find, what is a soul? Do we have a soul? What does it mean being conscious? And again, like, I have other projects online, and other projects that deeply explore different philosophical things, and spiritual things, and even geopolitical stuff. But on this channel, I want it to be completely bare, completely naked. And no, I don't mean I'm gonna show you my butt cheeks. I mean emotionally and mentally, just being completely bare, and to kind of go back to ground zero of just simply by telling our stories, exploring what is a soul, what is a consciousness, what is life, what is death, and then going back down to some simple things that may not be that simple, that may not turn out to be that simple, such things as YouTube and content creating and those sort of things. And again, it's 2:30 in the morning. It's foggy. The weather, the Google weather said it's very foggy, but it's not that foggy. I've seen it worse. Pretty sure you guys have also. But I always loved the mystique of a fog. And if you're gonna ask me, like, yo bro, why are you out here 2:30 in the morning walking around? I've always been a night person, and we're gonna explore that too. And no matter what I tried, I could never become a day person. And so the Soul Seek Journal is a journey of someone that went from rags to riches, back down to rags. Someone that has witnessed the fall of empires, from the Soviet Union to the rise of a new country, to being an immigrant, to being an athlete, to being addicted to drugs, to heartbreak, and then love, and again we come back to life and death. And that's what I want to talk about today. I told this story before, but it will be for the first time, I guess, on this channel, that my journey into any sort of exploration of anything life related, let's say, right? And quick note, someone said, and they were right, that life should be lived and not explored. But again, I think at the age we're living in, and at the transformation that we're seeing with artificial intelligence and simulations and so on and so forth, computer simulations, I think it's important to start documenting our real experiences. And so, going back to my story, I was 5 years old when it seemed like at 5, I always heard or seen someone dying. And then I'll never forget it. One morning I woke up and my sister tells me that my uncle died, and he was a young guy, 33 years old. I loved him dearly. He's a super nice, creative, beautiful human being. And so my memory, you know, feeds me, you know, I don't know if it's a false memory, or maybe that's the way I painted it for myself. But basically, I remember hearing the bad news, going outside, and it seemed like time froze again. Maybe I'm painting that for myself that way, and time froze, and that's when I started asking myself internally, like, wait, well, what is death? Like, where did my uncle go? um and so that started the journey. And I know a lot of you will be like, damn, 5 years old, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're bugging out, man. Like, why would a 5-year-old be asking themselves anything like that? And I just, not to say that I was like a special 5-year-old or like a prodigy or whatever, but at that time, living in the falling Soviet Union, about to transition into independent Ukraine. You know, we grew up, we were raised very differently. Like, at 5 years old, we were extremely independent. We were outside all day long. Obviously, there was no phones, no nothing. At those days, you know, you would walk yourself to school, and you would go outside for the whole entire day. Your parents wouldn't know where you are. So I'm just saying to say that, you know, we were really independent. But obviously, again, like a regular 5-year-old, even in those days, I guess, you know, wasn't asking themselves, I guess, these questions. Or maybe they were, I don't know. But on top of that, on top of the question of death, I remember like being with my friends, and looking at my friends, and then looking back at my body, and asking myself, like, well, hold on, like, this is me, and I'm in this body. Like, why am I in this body and not in that body? Like, just these I guess these weird questions. And I don't want to go further and, you know, tell you the story of that spiritual journey that started at 5, but I do want to come back to the point of death. And I think, you know, that question of death, or witnessing someone dying, or hearing someone that you knew dying, I think it always has a drastic impact on us. I think that's the moment when, you know, we start to really ponder, to really ask, you know, to question our own mortality, man. And so I find myself, and just a quick side note again, I think it's interesting that, you know, in order to explore life, a lot of us, I think the majority of us, we actually start with death. I think it's very ironic, but we know that life and death go hand in hand. It's like the polar opposites, but it's exactly the same thing in a way. Both scary, both unknown. You know, both can at any point start or end, and so I think that, you know, that exploration of life, a lot of us, most of us, start with death. And so, having witnessed and having sat through my father passing, this was 3 years ago. It was 3 years ago on December 30th. And what I mean by is, like, I watched people die, like I watched people pass throughout my life, but this was different because he basically dying at started dying at 10:30. I'm sorry, at 9:30 in the morning, and it lasted to 1 p.m. And it was just this horrendously painful to sit through experience, because he was in so much pain, and he was heavily medicated, and and I think from everything I've gathered, again, I don't want to go too deep into philosophy, but from everything I gathered, it's very, very difficult for consciousness to grasp what's happening at the moment of death, when the brain is so heavily medicated, and which he was. And the crazy thing is that he's one of these old school, Soviet slash Ukrainian guys that obviously was always against drugs, and I mean, he drank his whole life. But I think, like, people get used to the feeling of alcohol, and let's say the feeling of opioids, or other sort of brain impairing drugs. I think it's very different. So it was painful. It was very painful to sit through that. So yeah, it was very painful to sit through that. It had a very huge impact on me, and especially because my father and I did not have a good relationship. He was basically, he's basically not around, and when he was around, he was, when he was drinking, I don't want to speak that way on the dead, but I just want to put it out there that he wasn't happy with, obviously, the way he was living. He was working really hard for 16 hours a day, and when that weekend came, I guess, a person wants to mentally numb themselves, and I think that's another important thing to note, is the majority of us lower class, middle class people, we're pushed to basically grind and work nonstop, and mostly, do these jobs that we don't want to be doing, man. And it's heartbreaking. It really is, because a person gets stuck in that sort of comfort zone, even if it's a painful comfort zone. But I mean, repeating the same thing every day and not really giving themselves a chance to explore and try something else. A lot of times people don't have a chance to, right? Like, you gotta work, man. You have a family to feed, or things to, bills to pay, and all of these things. So, and then when the person finally comes, close to dying, they start realizing that, oh my God, man, like, I could have done this and I could have done that, and I shouldn't have did this and I shouldn't have done that. And and it's sad to witness, man. And because we didn't have a good relationship, him passing was very hard on me, because all of a sudden, all these internal, all this internal crap was resurfacing, man. Because I think it's always hard to lose someone, but I think it's a lot easier when you had a good relationship with a person, and you don't have that many regrets, and so you sort of send them on their way in goodwill, if that's ever possible. But when someone passes and you had a real shitty relationship, man, and there was so many mistakes that happened and so many regrets, it's really tough, man, because all that stuff, at least for me, all that stuff just resurfaces, man. A lot of stuff comes up from the basement. A lot of stuff you have to deal with all over again at a whole new perspective, man. Because now you can't go and apologize or talk about it, or whatever. It's this internal battle. And so it was very hard on me, extremely hard on me. And God bless my beautiful wife. I don't know how she went through that, just being the observer. And obviously I don't want to just say observer, because obviously she went through it with me. um and God bless her for that. But and then like 6 months later, things got a little easier. And I connected back with someone that I knew. Shout out to Daniel. And we were around one another for 3 months straight. And this was a human being that I till this day respect unconditionally, man. And I got so much love for him. And so now, a new phase of life was starting, because we were about to embark on this journey of opening up this media company, and finally doing all the things that I should have been doing for all these years, creative wise. And so then, like a year into our journey, Daniel passes away, man. And that hit me super hard from a whole different side, because he was only 50, man. He was 50, a family man, 3 kids. And so that just hit me different, man, because I couldn't understand, such a beautiful person, man. And so I guess that experience took me back to phase one of my mourning. And then for the remaining 6 months after that, I found myself in, constantly having migraines and being in pain, and just completely struggling, because it was wearing down on me psychologically. And then I seemed to, again, thank God to my wife, I have seemed to pass that phase, like, a doubt with a pain, and then some other pain, my back pain, because my nervous system was cracking down, man. Then I started having these major back pains, and I even ended up in the ER, even though I'm against facilities like that. And so the point that I'm trying to make is that even I've dealt with, or I'm dealing with that physical pain. But then lately, and it first happened about 6 months ago, I would say, I started to experience, and I'm afraid to even tell my wife this, I started to experience this feeling of impending doom, that I am dying. And I'm 41 now, but I'm vegan for a very long time, over a decade. And I was an athlete, and like, I don't smoke, I don't drink alcohol, I vape. But I haven't been doing drugs for a long time. So it's like, I'm a healthy guy. I have good weight, no cholesterol, no what do you call it, high blood pressure, or low blood, or whatever, like, always perfect vitals. And so I found myself just in this panic mode. Maybe some of you out there have dealt with something like this. And I remember, like, I guess because, and I always say that God blessed me with a sort of nature where I'm usually like a happy go round dude. I always find the positive in things. And so whenever people told me about being depressed and mental health issues, I would try to understand people, but I couldn't completely understand people. And then I found myself, and I'm finding myself, where now I understand, and so obviously, I'm very well read, and all of these other things. So I started digging internally, and I started to ask myself, like, is this a chemical imbalance in my brain because of, my drug past and being a boxer and, being in crazy life situations, and like, is this my brain, falling apart, or is this something deeper? Is this something spiritual? And the reason I say that is because this feeling of dying, it's like, it's very real. At least it's very real to me. It's almost like a whenever you heard people, and I've known people that, now I think back, whenever they were coming close to that time, it's like they felt it, man. Every time they felt it. So, I started asking myself, like, is this the time? Because it feels like the time, man. And so for the first time it happened, it was 6 months ago, and I'm talking, panic attacks, and like real bad ones. I'm this hard dude from, all these bad neighborhoods that I lived in and been in jail and all these other things. So, that feeling, that emotion was very new to me, where, I'm having a panic attack, man. I can't breathe. I feel like I'm dying. I would go on, well, I did the last time. I would go on artificial intelligence like ChatGPT, just to calm myself down somehow, and give it all my vitals, and tell it how I'm feeling, just to hear an opinion. Like, is it possible that I might be dying? And ChatGPT would tell me, look, man, this is a panic attack. It's a classic case of a panic attack. And so, that would calm me down or whatever. And about a week ago, so for 6 months, like, it happened a few days in a row, and then it stopped, and I was feeling amazing, man. After it stopped, I felt like I was being reborn. And so a couple weeks ago, it started happening again. And I mean, I would walk into the bathroom in my house, I would look in the mirror, and I would see the same thing I seen in my father's eyes as he was passing. And obviously you can say, like, look, you went through something traumatic, the brain taps into that memory, so of course you think you are seeing what you think you're seeing. But for what it's worth, I want to say that it feels, much bigger than that, just because, I'll just to defend my point in a way, is because I've experimented with psychedelics, and like I said, I've been in life situations where, it was I can't even put it into words, like really bad life situations, and I was still able to deal with them a lot more graciously, let's say, right? But in this case, it's really scary, man, to the point where I would even see or feel in front of my eye that my vision of the world is being blocked. I don't know if anyone has ever went through something like that, and I guess I'm not doing the best job describing it verbally, and so the point that I'm trying to make is I ended up in phase one of, once again, coming to a point of life, 41 years old, where once again I'm questioning death. I'm and everything that surrounds it. And I guess my wife gets mad at me because she's right. She's like, you gotta live your life, man. Have faith, and that everything will be good, and there's nothing you can do about death, because it's foolish, right? When it comes, it comes. Really nothing we can do about it. And the ironic thing is that that would be something that I would say to somebody, And I guess it's always easy to be the advisor when it's not happening to us. And so it's been about 30 minutes. I don't want to make this video crazy long. But so the point, and now I want to, get into a little bit being a YouTube content creator. And, being either 30 or 40 or 50, is it still worth to do? And I've done a video on my other project, and I don't want to crisscross these projects, so I don't want to leave links or anything like that. If any of you will find it, you will find it. But I did this video on the different categories of content creators, and I truly believe that, some of us do it for business, some of us do it for pleasure, some of us do it for, both things. And for me, first of all, yeah, we opened up this media company obviously to do it for business, and the reason for that is because I can't see myself doing anything else, because my life mission has always been to bring something to the world. That's why I started writing songs at the age of 11, and I've never stopped writing songs, and lately I've been writing songs for other artists, basically, that are coming out pretty good. And so the podcasts, the different shows that we started, it's always been part of the mission, man. And you can call it foolish, call it whatever you want. And so I know that if I was to, go I know that if I was to go and just start any other business, I wouldn't be fulfilled. I wouldn't. I know that I would go on for the rest of my life wondering and regretting. And so that's why I had an honest conversation with my wife. And I told her, and this was 3 years ago, that look, this journey will be tough, man. It won't be easy, especially we lost Daniel, so we have to do everything ourselves. Literally, there's no help. We can't hire anyone, and so we had to have that sit down and to make that life decision that this will be tough. There are no guarantees, but again, I explained it to her, because I have had a million other jobs and businesses and this and that, and because I know that you could be making $1 million a day if you're not fulfilling your higher calling. And let's not even say life mission or the gift that God gave you, whatever. Let's just simply say that internal calling that you have. If you're not fulfilling that, and we see it happen all the time, you're going to be a miserable human being. And if you are a miserable human being, you cannot be a good family man or woman, or you can't. If you're not good to yourself, you can't be good to others. It's simple as that, man. And so knowing this and having had that experience, I had to be honest with myself. I had to be honest with my wife, and basically make the decision like, look, this is what I want to do and have to do internally in order to thrive, in order to be sane. And I don't want to call myself, a YouTuber, a content creator, a blogger. Again, we are a independent media company, and we want to provide a different source of information for people, the sort of information where you're not going to get anywhere else. And I think there's real value in that, again, especially coming into this artificial intelligence slash computer simulation world that we are, on the brink of, man. Everything's changing. So, but to come back to this channel, to the Soul Seek Journal, once again, I wanted to be completely honest. I didn't want to do any flashy sort of things or script writing or anything. I just want this to be conversation based, and where I document this journey. I document it 100%, again, bare and honest, and without any, sort of commercial like distractions. And also, document and tell you guys my life journey. It's been an insane journey, man. And all of us, doesn't matter if you're from a wealthy background or a poor we all have a story to tell. All of our stories are worth telling, man. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Don't let anyone make you believe otherwise. And of course, I'm not telling all of you to go hop on social media or YouTube, because a lot of times, if you're not doing this for a purpose, it could be a waste of time, man. Unless it's self-reflection and self-therapy. But I'm telling you this because I want you to gain that value in who you are, back that value into the fact that you are special. Your story is unique. Your story, you are worth, loving and being loved, and you're worth, taking the very best things out of life that you can, getting the very best possible experience that you can. And so, to finish this up, it's going to be a crazy journey. There's jail and immigration and heartbreak and content creating and starting companies, and there's gonna be a lot, man. It's a wild ride. So welcome to the Soul Seek Journal. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. We're gonna be learning as we go, because again, I want this to be a journey of self-reflection, but also, diving into this, content creating world, if you will. And so we're learning on the go. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being you, man, for even, tapping on that play button. And please let me know if you have had, or if you're going through similar things as far as mental health goes. I think I'm working on an app, by the way, to be able to help people out with mental health. But let me know in the comments or whatever, or even write me, man. I'll leave an email. Write me. We could even host you on a podcast, whatever it is, man. We could go through this together, or it could be completely discreet. It's up to you. But I do want to hear your story, man. I do want to know if you have experienced similar things, and God willing, we can help one another out. So this was Nas. This is the Soul Seek Journal. I'm sending much love, many blessings to all of you. Stay strong, and see you next time.